Hi, thanks so much for clicking that link actually. My name is Sienna Gomez and I get to help out with the admissions process here at CrossPurpose. And I've worked here for a few months because, man, I have just seen the trajectory shift in my own family when they have chosen to do something that is hard and meaningful for the sake of their family. And it's changed and shifted my family for generations. So that's why I get to work at CrossPurpose. That's why I love working at CrossPurpose. And I'm actually honored today to get to take you through this presentation, and we're going to go through about maybe like 15-20 minutes of a presentation just so that you can get the full experience of what it looks like to be in CrossPurpose, right? What it looks like for you to be a leader here and what your time would be spent like and why we get to do what we do. So let's just dive on in. CrossPurpose was started out of this neighborhood about 5 years ago actually, and on your screen, you're actually going to see this slide next to me that talks about barriers, social capital, and money. So a couple of the things that CrossPurpose has seen in this neighborhood is there's just a couple of barriers that we've come up against, right? So things that are coming up on people's backgrounds when they're looking for jobs, childcare, if you're a single parent, things like that, those things that can hold you back. A lot of times my question that I pose to people at this point is, what's held you back? What are the things that have held you back in your own career and personal life from achieving the job that you want or achieving just things down the road that you want to do? And another point of that is like money. So trainings and certifications are really, really, really expensive when you're trying to pay for rent in the Denver metro area. If you're trying to buy a house, if you have to pay for childcare, things all across the spectrum, right, can be barriers for things that are holding us back to get the job that we want or moving forward. And then another piece of that is social capital. So the phrase, it's not what you know, but it's who you know, that is actually pretty true. And we have found that within CrossPurpose, the network of people that you can know just grows exponentially with your involvement. But we also know that the smaller my network or the smaller your network is, the smaller amount of people that you have the chance to reach out to and say, hey, I need a job, can you help me? But when your network grows, then that means your social capital grows and you have more opportunity to get that job or to move and advance in the way that you want. So my hope is that you will see the CrossPurpose solution throughout the thread of this presentation and that you would know our heart and where we're coming from and what we do. So to give you just a general overview of our program, get ready. So it's about 6 months long. So our next program starts on May 4th and will end October 7th. So those are our dates that we're looking at. We're super excited for this. Our program, CrossPurpose in general, is felon friendly. And we talked about that, right? One of those barriers that we experience and that we see is that people's backgrounds can hold them back from getting jobs. So CrossPurpose has seen that and has addressed it to the ability that we can. And we also offer training and certifications and full tuition scholarships. Those two things all pair together. CrossPurpose has the ability to choose what we pay for. So we pay for training and certifications and full tuition scholarships to the skill tracks that we have identified in the Denver metro area that have longevity, right? And that have trajectory in them, not just dead-end jobs, but have opportunity moving forward in them. And in addition to that, we're also a paid program. And this means that while we understand and recognize that the amount that we might give within being a paid program can't maybe pay your rent or things like that, it's enough to just take the edge off. So it's about $350 a month that's separated. It's a performance-based stipend, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But that just takes a little bit of the edge off for you to get your bus pass or gas or groceries, things like that, with the ultimate end goal, right, of in October that you would have a job full-time making a living wage with advancement opportunities. And we're super excited about that and what that looks like in the years to come and in the months to come too. The last thing that I'll mention is the word leader that you see on the screen. The reason that we have that on there is actually because we don't call the people in our program participants. We actually deeply believe in the way that we talk about people and talk to them. So that word leader actually represents our program participants, and that's what they're called. They're our leaders at CrossPurpose because they're the ones that are leading the change in their own lives, right? So you have that opportunity to lead that own change in your own life and be a leader with us as well. So as you can see, CrossPurpose is a career and community development program. With the career part, you're seeing that you're in the recruitment and admissions phase, which means that right now you're experiencing the virtual info session. And we're excited about that in the wake of what's going on now. We're excited that you can sit across from me virtually and get to see these things and get the program overview. So in order to even advance through our program, we have some minimum requirements that you can see on the screen actually. So you have to be 18 to 55 years old, you have to have a high school diploma or your GED, stable housing, and 6 months sobriety. So that's the minimum requirements, and then we also need application, things like that in order to advance you through the process. So if you were to be accepted, then you would move into the primary program, right? So you would move into personal development, skill development, and then career launch. And I'm going to explain those right now. So the next part that we have is personal development. So within personal development, our schedule is Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesdays, 8:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. Wednesday night family gatherings, 6 to 8 p.m. And that's a required time, and we'll talk about that in a second. Thursdays, 8:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. and Fridays you would have off. So that's only for the first 6 weeks, and why we have Fridays off is so that you can schedule TANF, CCAP, workforce, things like that, those appointments. We really want to honor that space for you, and we give you that Friday to be able to do that. So that's only for the first 6 weeks that Friday is off, but within personal development in and of itself, you would start career coaching. So our career coaches are the people that are really diving in with you. They're the ones who are sitting across from you, who are processing your resume, your mock interview skills, your cover letter, things like that. They're the people that are kind of working through that personal development piece with you, right? So we think about personal development as what are we doing internally so that we can exceed this way, right? How do we do that? And that career coach is there to really walk that line with you in a really honoring way to your story as well. This is also where that $350 living stipend or performance stipend would kick in. And we say performance-based stipend because CrossPurpose has high requirements. So it's performance-based as in if you're not meeting attendance requirements or things like that, then you're going to see that reflected in the pay that you would get. So within that as well, that's when it would kick in, is personal development. Your first one would kick in. And then personal development also means that you'd have professional development. So we want to know how you are coming into the workplace. We want you to be able to process those things. We want you to have ready feedback, things like that, that can help you learn those skills and learn how to, for example, communication. How do I handle conflict in the workplace? How do I tell my story in the workplace? How do I handle all these things to be the best me that I can be in that place? Then another piece of that is financial literacy and life skills. So a practical that I like to give is if you got your dream job and you got your first paycheck, what are you spending that first paycheck on? Are you spending it on the nice flat screen TV so that you can watch football or March Madness if it's still playing, right? Are you spending it on that, or are you spending it on rent and utilities, some for savings because you want to buy a house someday? Where are you spending that? So we talk about those things in personal development because we want you to be a well-rounded individual, and we don't just want you to get a career, right? We want you to be sustainable in that workplace. And another piece that the coaches love are mock interviews. So that is one of those times where you can have the opportunity to hear, hey, how am I in an interview? What's the feedback with my body language? How am I presenting myself? What are my facial expressions like? Things like that. How am I coming across? So we love that day, and personal development is, in general, it's all wrapped up into a lot of different things, and it's I would say it's an intense 6 weeks, but it is so worth it, and you can see it on the other end of that. So we love it. And then after the 6 weeks, personal development is capped, and then you would move into skill development. So within skill development, we have a select amount of tracks that we'll be offering for our May 4th class that you can choose which one you would want to go into. And as a reminder, they are free to you because we get to choose training and certifications and full tuition scholarships. We get to choose to use those towards you and for you. Then after skill development, which can take 2.5 weeks or 2.5 months to 6 weeks, 8 weeks, things like that, within that timeline, you move into career launch. So after you finish skill development, you move into career launch. And career launch is really where you are applying, you're interviewing, you're doing the good and hard work that you already learned about. The hard work of sitting across from someone in an interview and answering stories about your background. Why is your background what it is? Is there something on your background to be aware of? Or how did you handle conflict in the workplace, right? Those things that we talk about in personal development are actually coming to fruition, and you're putting them into place in career launch. So we love to see that tangible, that working place. So those 3 phases, so personal development, skill development, and career launch, are the career development part of CrossPurpose. So the other part of CrossPurpose is community development. So community development has 3 crucial components that we love to talk about here at CrossPurpose, because it's really what makes us who we are and why we're so proud to do the work that we do. So you see that you have a coach. So we talked about that coach already. That coach is the person that's there for you. That's the one, right? That's the person who's committed to your success. They're helping you find job leads. They're doing the things like that to help you keep moving in the workplace, to help you get that career of long-term, you might want to be a nurse, right? So they're helping you understand what it's like to be a CNA, to working up towards being an RN someday. So that's the person that's committed to you in that sense. And then we talked about family gatherings earlier. We talked about that being Wednesdays from 6 to 8 p.m. A couple bonuses to family gatherings: free food and free childcare. We understand that those 2 things, even in the barrier section that we talked about at the very beginning, those can be barriers to you getting the job that you want, to you getting or having community that you desire, is having a good meal and having childcare. So we provide that at family gathering because we want that space to be for you and for you to be able to flourish and grow in a small group environment with people who are rubbing shoulders with you, who are doing the same career track, who are going after it in the same way that you are. And then the next part of that is your ally. So allies, you would get to meet at family gathering. Allies, very specifically though, are community volunteers who want to dedicate their time on Wednesday nights to being with you and to sitting with you and to hearing how your career track is going, to hear how the mock interviews, that could be stressful, how those went, or how your interview just went yesterday, right? So they want to know. So those 3 components are crucial in our community development piece that partners really well with career development. So I hope that you can see within this entire presentation that CrossPurpose has high expectations. And I like to pause here to talk about why we have high expectations. So we want to set you up really well for the workplace. We want to set you up well to exceed their expectations with attendance and requirements, things like that. So that's why we have the basic requirements of attendance and dress code, and you can see those reflected in the performance-based stipend. We really want to push you to a place of responsibility and accountability in your actions and how you come and show up to the workplace. So that's why we have those at CrossPurpose. Another piece of this is that you would strive to maintain sobriety. So this is where that conversation is of, we understand that in Colorado, marijuana is legal, and workplaces do too, all over Colorado. But on the flip side of that, in an instant, you can lose a job if you have a random UA and you test positive for THC. So the reason why we request and require that people's levels of THC stays at 0 and it comes down to 0 by day 1 is because, again, we want to put you in that place to succeed professionally, and that is why we have that expectation. So that's why we have that. Then the next part is working in your career to graduate. So I want you to become a potential leader. I want you to be here, and I want you to try hard for your dreams and to go after it. And that means a lot of hard work, right? That means if you're gonna come into this program for a specific skill track, I don't want you on the other end of that skill track to go get a job as like a cashier at King Soopers, which while they're needed, and that's great, I want you to be in the career of your dreams. I want you to work for that, and I want you to be there. And the last piece is that you would maintain a high standard of workplace ethic and professionalism. Again, we have high expectations as CrossPurpose because we want to see you meet that bar, and not just meet the bar, but exceed it, so that your potential future employer knows that you are just a diamond in the rough, and we believe in that in you. So on the same realm, right, we have high expectations. We don't expect you to do this by yourself. We have high support to meet that. So we have wraparound support, over 30 staff and volunteers, all encompassing, that want to see you win. They are here for you and committed to you. And that's why so many of us get to work at CrossPurpose, and so many people volunteer at CrossPurpose as well. So the other piece of that is loving community and increase in social capital. Do you remember at the beginning of this presentation, I talked about social capital and your small group of friends versus maybe a larger group of people that you can reach out to? So by the end, if you were to start May 4th, which is our program, and you went until October 7th for graduation, you would have around 100 new connections for social capital, for you to reach out to, for you to know, for you to say, hey, I'm looking for a job in this. Can you keep your ears out? And your expanse just grows, and we are thrilled about that. And that's another piece of the program that is just kind of like icing on the cake, right? You don't maybe come for the connections, you come for the career, but you get the connections, and it's awesome, and we love that. Then another one is access to community partners for resources and assistance. So Cross Purpose doesn't claim to be perfect, and we don't have all the answers, and we readily acknowledge that, but we do our best with our high support environment to find the answers for you if we don't have them. And that happens, and we recognize that. So we like to hold that tension of if we don't have the answer, we'll do our best to find it for you, and we appreciate you giving us the chance to do that. So the final piece of that is that we would have staff committed to helping you find jobs through job leads, community partners, and volunteers. We want you to know that there's a team of people wrapped around you who want to see you win. And while we might not be able to hand you a job like this on a silver platter, right, we can actually just give you opportunities to apply, to develop those connections on your own, right, networking, developing your social capital, things like that. We get to come around you in full force to help you find that job of your dreams. So the final thing, and this is just an overview of the program. Thanks for sitting in with me. I'm really grateful that you took the time to do that. So key details and reminders of our program. So we're a 6-month commitment, and this is our schedule. Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays, 8:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. Wednesday night, family gatherings. Remember, free food and free childcare from 6 to 8 p.m. And then Thursdays and Fridays, 8:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. And then during personal development, so the first 6 weeks, your Fridays would be off. So again, that's for like appointments, doctors, things like that, that you can schedule on that Friday. And then we're a drug-free program, so zero tolerance policy for THC. If you test positive for THC when you come in to do a drug test, then we would just want to see your levels coming down to 0 by day 1. But if you tested positive for something harder than THC, that's a disqualification from our program, and we would need to talk about that as well. Then the next thing is our relative restriction policy. This is something that we have to address every single class, right? Because we know that families have drama, and we know that cross purpose is highly sought after within multi-generational families. We know that we see moms and daughters and grandmas and little kids who want to be in our program. And the reality is that if you were to be accepted in our program on May 4th, then your grandma or your mom, they couldn't start on the same time as you if they were accepted. We want to honor that family connection, and we also are saying that, hey, if you were both to be accepted, then somebody starts in May, somebody starts at the end of July. We just stagger that enrollment because if there's family drama or something happens, we want to honor that space for your family and honor the space for our cross-purpose leaders and staff to honor that situation as well. And in regards to that restriction policy, it also includes dating. So you can't be dating somebody who's coming into the May 4th class if you're both accepted. You would have to stagger your enrollment, and we just ask that you be honest with us about that and honor that policy of ours, because we want to honor that relationship between the both of you, and we want to honor our staff in that same way. So as we go through that line, so then full tuition scholarships, the performance stipend, those two things we've talked about. So this is at 0 cost to you, and you'd get a little extra kind of buffer money, the $350 performance stipend. That is just the buffer for you during that month. And then the graduation bonus. So if you met all the requirements, then you'd have a little extra stipend at the very end to, again, buffer that time for you. Then the final couple of things. So CrossPurpose is faith identity. We were actually started out of a church called Providence Bible Church about 5 years ago that meets in the same building on Sundays. We want to be really honest. It's a Christian church, and that's where we were founded out of. But you don't have to be Christian or claim any faith or anything about God in your life to actually come here. You can be gay, straight, bi, trans, however you identify, you are welcome here, and you have a place at the table. You have a seat at the table with us. And we're really proud of that. We just like to be really honest about that component and say, hey, if you're interested in some of the optional things on the side, you're welcome to do that. And then the last thing is our next program starts on May 4th, and it's coming up so fast, and we can't wait to have you. We would just ask that you would do the next step. Apply. That is the first step that you need to take after watching this information session for you to get going and get coming in the process. And yeah, we just can't wait to have you, and we're looking forward to it.